Hi, I'm Shira Carpel.
And I'm Shayna Gaunt, and we're board-certified behavior analysts. At How to ABA, we provide practical resources, community, and support to ABA professionals. In each episode of our podcast, we will be having real conversations with real people, sharing real stories about ABA.
We'll share relevant strategies and actionable tips that will make us all better ABA practitioners. It's the ABA content you need that you're not going to learn in a textbook.
Hi, so we are welcoming one of our members, Katerina Savino. Kat, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
We're so excited to have you on the show.
Yes, really excited to be here. Thanks, guys.
So if we can start, Kat, by just telling us a little bit about you, your role, your job title, kind of what you do in the field.
Absolutely. I am a BCBA. I'm currently actually on maternity leave. Just had my baby very recently.
Yes. Congratulations.
Yes, very exciting. But prior to that, I was working as a lead BCBA at a multidisciplinary clinic out in Colorado with OT, speech, PT, and ABA. And then also I'm going to be starting up the next semester here with Simmons University. I'm a mentor with them, providing supervision with students and their fieldwork experience. So excited to get that going soon too.
That's amazing. And I love this topic of, multidisciplinary approaches kind of all playing nicely together. It's something that I think our field kind of struggles with. It's something that I do on a regular basis in terms of where I work. So it's a bit of a passion for me. So I'm excited to hear more about how you kind of came into that role and how you approach coming in as a BCBA and having to merge all of those disciplines together.
Yeah, absolutely. I have had lots of experience in the multidisciplinary team approach. I was a special ed teacher prior to becoming a BCBA, and so naturally just thrown into it as a special ed teacher. And then
Shira, sorry, I'm going to cut you off, Kat. Okay. Shira, she's exactly like you.
Sounding a lot like me.
Wow,
really?
Shira was spec ed teacher turned BCBA. We turned her to the dark side.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. I feel like there's a kindred, spirit relationship when you were a special ed teacher, then turned BCBA, we kind of understand that journey.
Totally. You really see the need and can give back in such a greater way.
Right. It's that feeling where, you're doing so much, but there's something missing. And then, ABA kind of shines that light.
That's exactly it. Exactly.
Right. And so, like I was saying, I've always, from an early stage in my career, learned the importance of multidisciplinary approach and have been, lucky enough to learn so much from speech paths and OTs and PTs. And so to me, it was always just a necessity. I never really knew any other way. And then when I was working at a clinic where we were going to bring in ABA, I was still teaching at that point. And, that was my firsthand experience of seeing how there was some tension, how people, really were unsure about how this was going to, play into, OT and speech and how everybody was going to work together. And, especially when, our kiddos receive so many more hours of services in ABA. There's this fear of, that dominance piece of like one's going to take over the other. And can we truly all play well together? And, we can't be naive to the fact that there is, a history of negative tension. And so, I got to see that firsthand. And then at that point kind of wanted to really make it my one of my plights in my career to help subside that, to help people see that that's not going to be their experience, that we can all work together. And, in not working together, the thing that we risk is better client outcomes. And so we have to work together because it's only going to be best for our clients. So yes, that's kind of the long-winded explanation of how I got into it. But ever since then, I've worked at a multidisciplinary clinic and really see the importance to it. So I try to spread the word now as a mentor for people in their program, that if you're not currently working with other disciplines, then get out there and find a way to do so. So
yeah,
I love what you said. Sorry, we've got to have a signal. This is one of our first ones. We've got to have a signal. We always cut each other off. It's not like a marriage, Shira.
Fine, I'm used to it.
I guess what I was going to say is I loved how you said that you in your earlier career, you've always worked with an SLP and you've always worked with OT, that you just never thought anything of it. It was just something you did. And I wish that more BCBAs could be like that and more BCBAs could experience that right from the beginning versus, hey, no, I'm the only one in this field or I'm the one calling the shots because the kiddo has this many hours with us. So do it my way or the highway. And I really love that you're like, well, no, why is there another way? There shouldn't be another way. So it's nice to hear that fresh perspective. And I wish it wasn't a fresh perspective. I wish it was just, this is just what happens.
Right. Yeah. I think it comes from, us as BCBAs now pushing, the people that we're providing supervision and mentorship to do that piece before they even become, before they pass their exam and they become BCBAs, to get that experience as much as possible. It's out there, even if you're not in a multidisciplinary clinic, if you have a caseload, I would be hard pressed to believe that there isn't a kid on your caseload that isn't receiving outside services, isn't in contact with a speech path or an OT. And if you're not communicating with them, then you really should just, even if it's, of course, for that client in that case, it's imperative, but also to just create a network for yourself, to have people to go to. Because if you don't have a speech path or an OT or a PT that's a text or an email away, then you need to change that and make sure that you have someone that you can go to and chat with about best services, and to be able to learn from and reach out to when there are things that are outside your scope, because that's going to happen.
Yeah, spoiler alert, we don't have all the answers. And I think that's a big conclusion for people to realize. And I love what you said about the potential of it being kind of threatening, because some people come for so many ABA hours that it feels like, oh, we're taking over, or there's, ABA might be more important, but that's really not the case. And I'd love to get even into the nitty gritty. I'll tell you some of the things that I encounter is on those places that there's overlap, right? So there's definitely overlap on communication. So working with an SLP on communication, but at the same time, we have different approaches. There's differences in opinion on errorless teaching. There's differences in opinion on reinforcement, natural reinforcement versus external reinforcement or more unnatural types of reinforcement. How do you deal with those, actual, when it comes down to it? Do we model the AAC or do we present trials with the AAC? Does that come up for you?
Absolutely. And I think it's about, finding middle ground and putting parameters around it, saying, never saying no, but saying, okay, how are we going to implement this? How are we monitoring it? And when are we checking in to see if it's working? Because even though you might believe that your way is the best way and you have historically seen progress in your way, it's very likely that SLP has also done it that way and seen progress with that approach, or else she probably wouldn't want to do it again, right? So you have to kind of look at it through that lens and say, let's be willing to try things that you're maybe opposed to initially, but as long as you kind of say okay, let's try this, let's make sure that we are actually monitoring that progress. What are our markers that progress is being made? Let's come to agreement on that this is how we're going to see whether or not progress is happening. And we're going to make sure that if it's not happening in 2 weeks, that we're going to shift and try something different. Because that's what we do anyway. So why not, take that approach with what they're looking to do too. Especially if it's a new relationship, and you're trying to, show that you can work together, where it's then once you have that established relationship, you can maybe say a little bit more of no, really, this time let's try it my way. And then first or what have you. So, that give and take in a relationship is important.
Yeah, I think that communication piece is so important. Like you talked about, how do you maintain that open communication? Do you have, whether it be team meetings or, everyone is CC'd on everything that's going on with the client? How does everyone kind of stay up to date with what's going on? How do you maintain that open communication with all the practitioners?
Right, right. I think we have so many avenues now to do that, there really isn't an excuse not to. It's, you utilize all the things that you have right now, right? Most places have some type of communication system that they're working within their company. But then, there's Zoom, you don't have to have these in-person meetings anymore. We can utilize Zoom and things like that. So, making sure that you're not just kind of, making a plan and dropping it, and, setting those meetings in place, and having set meetings on your schedule has really been huge for me when meeting with other disciplines, because we all get busy and we all have so many kids on our caseload. So putting things in place on the calendar, and trying to get as many of the people that are, a part of that team together at those meetings as possible. And if not, then having a way that you're going to disseminate what was talked about at that meeting to everybody else, taking notes and sharing with everybody or what have you.
Yeah, sharing is huge. Are there ever any times that you kind of have to agree to disagree? Or would you say that most of the time by working together, you can kind of come up with a solution that everyone's happy with?
Yeah, I think for the most part, we can always find a solution that everyone is happy with at maybe not initially, but through the process that we all kind of find a place that we're happy with at the end of it all. It can be an ongoing process where, like I was saying, there's some give and take, where at some, when you're being the person that's giving, you might not be super happy about it because you really you feel passionately about the way that you would prefer to do it, but that's okay. That's all part of it. I think the biggest thing that we need to be doing is just closely being aware of how we're monitoring that progress and how it's impacting our clients, and not being so worried about, our way or our egos or what have you. Also, being open about with your other teammate and saying like, hey, like, I know you're not super excited about this. I know this is different from what you wanted to do initially, but if it's not working after a couple of weeks, we'll change. Let's give it a chance and we'll change. I'm not going to stick to something that's not working for the client either.
And that's great. It's that database decision making, right? And it's not about, well, subjectively, I've done this in the past and I like this idea and this is what works for me. And subjectively, or from my perspective, this is what I've done before. So let's do it my way. But it's, hey, you know what? I'm willing to step into your perspective and realize that you've got the exact same, opinion about that approach because that's what you've done before. Let's take some data, and instead of having a subjective view, we actually have an objective, quantifiable approach saying, yes, this works. Look at this percentage, or nope, this doesn't work. Look at this frequency, etc.
Mm-hmm. Right. And even within, our field, there's, one intervention might not work for every kiddo in the same way. I mean, if you do a Java review, right, of one type of intervention, it's going to be successful with, one population and not successful with another population or what have you. So you can't always say that one approach is going to be good for everyone all the time anyway.
Absolutely. I talk about this bag of tricks, and it's all about what's in your bag of tricks, right? And, every single person you meet along the way usually adds something to that bag of tricks. Some people add just the knowledge of, hey, I never want to do that again. And other people, really add like, oh, cool, I never thought about it this way. Or here's, what, for a kiddo who looks like this or who presents as this might work better. Or, hey, you know what? I have to problem solve this. And I did this approach a while ago that this speech path recommended. Let's try that, and we'll take data on it and analyze that. So I love that too. And being able to use all of those multidisciplinaries, somebody's adding something to my bag of tricks, and I'm learning and constantly learning from that.
Yeah. And I think coming into the field as BCBAs, we come in like being trained in ABA and everything's ABA, and you experience clinics where everything's ABA. And even me coming from a place where I was only doing ABA, we had some relationships with other professionals, but coming into a multidisciplinary clinic was very humbling. And you have to be prepared to acknowledge that it's not all my way. And you know what? It's not in anyone's best interest for it to be my way either, because I have so much to learn from these other professionals. And also, we're so used to problem solving. We're so used to figuring things out because we had to. But you know what? We don't have to. There are other people that can help us. So you know what? If I have a kid who needs an AAC and it's not like my strength, like why wouldn't I use the speech therapist to then help and support? Then I don't have to feel like I have all the answers, which is really amazing. And I think that if there's something that you can recommend to a BCBA who's coming into this type of role, is there something that you can suggest to make them more open-minded, or if they're just wanting to get involved in other disciplines, what could you do to help them?
Well, the number one thing I would say is make sure that you're seeking out those relationships, kind of like I was saying before. I think a lot of, when we get stuck in programming, or we get stuck in things, we seek out more tangible resources. We seek out, books and things like that. But, I really would encourage people to seek out people a little bit more, and seek out other individuals to learn from, and also, be humble to the fact that, if you truly took a look at your programming, everything that you're doing for all of your clients, I would say that you'd probably be surprised to learn that some of the things that you're doing aren't necessarily 100% evidence-based, or aren't 100%, supported for that population that you're doing it for. Just because you saw another BCBA do it, or that's the way you were trained, also doesn't mean that it's best practice, or if it's evidence-based, or it's up to date with what's best practice right now. I think there's a lot of BCBAs that think that just because they've seen it, or it's been on in an ABA clinic, that it's evidence-based, and that's not necessarily the case. So I think we need to kind of take a step back and really evaluate what we're doing, and realize that sometimes we do things because we've seen them, that simply because we know they've been effective. We've seen that they've been effective with our clients. They're not necessarily, proven in a clinical study. And so that way, so don't, kind of scoff at, a recommendation by an OT or an ST as not being evidence-based, when do you truly know that everything that you're doing is, 100% rooted in evidence-based? So be a little bit more humble, be a little bit more open. And like you were saying, it's only going to give you an opportunity to learn, even if that opportunity to learn isn't necessarily what to do, but maybe what not to do. So just always be open to that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important. So just like, be humble. Like, don't think we know everything, and be ready to learn from other people. I love that.
I love that too. And I think that the one big thing that I've learned, one of the biggest things I've learned as a BCBA, is how to say no, but also how to say, I don't know. I don't know. Let's look to somebody else. Let's look to the research. Let's look to people. Let's have natural conversations with people. Let's seek out professionals who have done this before and who have experience in this, and let's get their advice, and then let's measure it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We all are victims of imposter syndrome, right? And I think that what's perpetuating that is experienced BCBAs who aren't saying, I don't know, or aren't saying, or, are saying like, oh, why are you asking questions, or scoffing at people who see things differently or asking questions. It makes you feel more nervous to seek out help, and to explore different avenues, and to be more flexible with our approach because of that. So I think the more humble we are, the more it'll help people feel less of that imposter syndrome, right?
I was on a Facebook group the other day, and somebody asked a question about, a certain curriculum or certain products, suggestions to teach this certain skill, not addressing the issue of asking questions on Facebook, but that's not for now. Anyway, so somebody made a suggestion of something that I use pretty often. I have no issue with it. It's kind of like, let's pull all the best resources and use it if it's going to benefit our clients. And right away, there was a response from like somebody more senior in the field reminding us of what's evidence-based and what's not evidence-based. And I'm just like, is this the place, first of all? And second of all, like, it's a book. You could take any book and we can make it work for our kids. It's just a material. It's not in and of itself the be all and end all of the actual intervention. And I do find that people are just so quick to have all the answers and have to dismiss all the other disciplines because you know what? I don't even know why. It doesn't make sense to me. And I love the idea of just take what you can, like take the best from all of the disciplines and have your own data collection and do your own research. And don't be afraid to say that I don't have all the answers.
Right. Like you said, there's resources out there that I think are like automatically dismissed, because of their name, OTs love zones of regulation, and we hear that word and we're like, oh, nope, not going to use that. And it's like, well, you can still, use it as a tool but with a shaping procedure, and then you're fine. And then that still is, evidence-based and a wonderful ABA intervention. It's not and that way you're doing both, right? You're still incorporating what the OT wants to work on, but you're still making sure that it's a good approach. So
yeah, and that's a great example. And I find that comes up a lot. And that's exactly how I do it personally. We'll use curriculums like that, and we'll take data and we'll use, role play and BST and all of those, evidence-based teaching principles without having to say that this curriculum in and of itself is evidence-based or not.
Right. Exactly. 100%.
That's great. So you seem to really seem very well prepared in your role. And I'm wondering, how did you get there? What's the best advice someone gave you to prepare you for this? And if you could share the best advice that you've received.
I think it kind of goes back to the fact that we are all learning, and to be humble, and to be, to be that lifelong learner, right? To never feel like you know everything, right? Always seek every opportunity as a learning opportunity. That's kind of echoing everything we've talked about already, but that to me is what has really stuck with me throughout, my career is and I guess that advice came from maybe not something that was ever directly given to me, but kind of indirectly seeing people who weren't operating under that mentality, and thinking like, oh man, what a shame how much they're missing from being closed-minded and not seeing, not being open to all there is out there. And then also seeing people who are, wanting to learn and grow and be honest about, their practice, and how much more beneficial it's been for them, so, kind of learning through other people's actions.
Yeah.
I love that. And ABA is the science of learning. And, we as teachers, therapists, instructors, teach other people to learn. And then we need to figure out how we learn ourselves. And I love that if you can take every opportunity, even if it's teaching another kiddo, you're learning from that experience. And then you're going on to, the next child or the next individual, and you're teaching that child or that teenager or that adult. You can take that as a learning opportunity as well. So, it's not that we're teaching others to learn, but we need to be learning ourselves as well, and taking those opportunities and saying, wait, did I learn from that? What did I learn from that? And really analyzing that. I love that.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for people to hear that you can be confident and you can know what you're doing and you can know your stuff, and you can also say that I don't know everything and I'm ready to learn from others. I think that people think it's one or the other. And if I'm going to have all the answers, then I can't ever say I don't know. But it's important to hear that both are available. We can learn from others, and we can also come across as being confident and assured of what we ourselves are practicing.
Right. I think is that a Maya Angelou quote that's, I knew better, so I did better, or I know better, so I do better. Right. It's about what I'm doing now versus being stuck on, what I was doing before. That's okay. If what you were doing before, you realize it wasn't that great and wasn't that effective, now just do better.
Exactly. I love that. I love that.
That's great.
Okay. I want to thank you, Kat, for coming on and sharing this insight with us. It's going to be an ongoing journey, I think, for all of us to continue figuring out how we can work nicely with others, continuing our own journey of learning and growing in the field. And I appreciate that reminder. I think it's really important to remember to be humble, to continue to learn, and just continue to do better is what we all want to do in the field.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kat. This was really refreshing.
Yes. Awesome. Love this topic. It was great talking with you guys. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining today's conversation. Wherever you get your podcast, please go and subscribe, rate, and review so others can find out about us too.
For more from How to ABA, including free resources and ABA materials, visit our blog at howtoaba.com. And make sure that you're following us on social media for more practical tips and updates.